we are actually going to start right off with our video today because that will introduce us. But more than that, we have a lot to cover today. We're going to talk about two different things. This will be the first section, and then we're going to talk about worry at the second section because we're trying to make it through the Gospel of Luke, and we're never going to finish it if we don't start getting with the program here. So I looked at all our videos that we have to show, and I think we've maybe shown 10, and we have about 30 more to go. So we got to get with the program here. So we're going to do the first half on what you're going to see now. We'll come back and do a second video, and then that's where we'll go. So watch this, and then that's where we'll start. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for our Women's Bible Study today. We are Women's Bible Study. If you want to know more about us, you can go to womensbiblestudy.com. We just teach Bible, and we're so glad that you joined us from any way you joined us today. If you don't know this, you can watch us from lots of different places. We have apps for your phone or your devices. We have Android, Apple, or your iPhone, your Windows. We have a channel on the Roku box, and people watch us online or YouTube. So however you found us today, we are super glad that you are with us today. Now, we are doing something a little bit different. We are actually in Israel filming the different places that we're studying in Luke. And so today we are standing by some rocks, and these are rocks that have fallen when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. And so today I want to talk about the meaning of what is your purpose in life. And so what we see from the rocks that are standing behind us is that there's so many people that put into their life, my job makes me happy, money makes me happy, my kids make me happy, whatever that is that tries to fulfill you. And we're going to find out that things go away really fast. The stock market crashes and kids get married, and so nothing ever satisfies you completely. And so we're going to read today and understand this by these thousands of years of fallen rocks that are standing behind us. Today we want to read from Luke 12, verse 13, and we'll start there. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who appointed me a judge or arbitrator over you?" Then he said to them, "Beware and be on your guard against every form of greed, for not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man was very productive. And he began reasoning to himself, saying, 'What shall I do since I have no place to store my crops?' Then he said, 'This is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years to come. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your soul is required of you, and now who will own what you have prepared? So is the man who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God.'" And our main focus that we want to see today is that life goes by really, really fast. And we can see this from here, that this is something that was so important back then. The temple, the religion, everything that people put their life into is a rubble of rocks. It's just fallen down, and it means nothing to this day. So as we do our lesson, think about that in our background, and we'll be back to finish. Okay. So we're going to talk about real quick this morning, because I want to go over what just happened, what Jesus was talking about. Because here's the question that I want to ask you. And we're going to do two prayers, and you're going to see which one looks more like you. But here is my stuff, everything in my life, my whatever I'm spending my money on, or is it more about me, or is it more about God? What is my stuff all about? Because Jesus just got done saying that if you're not being rich towards God, and we're going to talk about what that means, then you're a fool. That's what Jesus says. So we're going to put two prayers. I think I put them in your handout. I can't remember, but they probably be up on the screen here. So I want you to look at these two and think, which one, if I went to bed at night, would I pray? Here's the first one. Thank you, Lord, for another day, the chance to learn about you, the chance to pray. Help those I love desire to know you, and give me the loving words to say. And now as I lay my head down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. Please guard me, Jesus, through the night. Keep me safe till morning light. But if I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And should I live for other days, I pray that I will serve you as you guide my ways. Okay, that's the first prayer. So that may be yours. Now, some of you, it might be this one. Steve Farrar wrote Family Survival in the American Jungle, and here was his prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray my Cuisinart to keep. I pray my stocks are on the rise, and that my analyst is wise, that all the wine I sip is white, and that my hot tub's watertight, that racquetball won't get too tough, that all my sushi is fresh enough. I pray my cordless phone still works, and my career won't lose its perks. My microwave won't radiate, my condo won't depreciate. I pray my health club doesn't close, and that my money market grows. And if I go broke before I wake, I pray my Volvo they won't take, okay? All right, you got to get the drift here, okay? There's two kinds of prayers and there's two kinds of people, and it's the people that's like so worried about everything that's going on in my home, my life, you just name it. Or do you go to bed saying, God, I just want you to save my neighbor. I want you to save my friend. God, help me to give to this. Help me to do this. Like, what is your focus here? Because it's either going to be on God or it's going to be on our stuff. Now, let's talk about when Jesus was, last week we talked about fear. Now, think about where Jesus was. He's standing here and he's talking to this whole crowd of people. And last week he was talking about things like blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. We talked about that. We talked about fear, and Jesus comes along and says, don't fear, but there is one thing to fear, and that's that God can send your soul to hell. Okay, so they were very, very difficult doctrinal issues. And so now they're all standing there, and suddenly this man blurts out, and he starts talking about, but Jesus, I'm in a battle with my family over my inheritance, and they're not being fair to me. Okay, so instead of focusing on the things of God, now what's happening is he's focusing on himself and what he thinks. Now, in that day, Jesus was a rabbi, so it would make sense that someone would have come to the rabbi to get help like this. But what Jesus is trying to have him do is look inside of his heart and say, for what? Okay, so let's just say you get all your money. Okay, what are you going to use that for? All right, here's our funniest thing today that I'm going to say. There was a man who worked all of his life, saved as much money as he could, and he just was very, very fearful of when he died. He wanted to take his money with him because he just figured like he didn't know what was going to happen to it when it was all over. So he said to his wife, when I die, I want you to take all my money and put it in the casket with me. And I want you to promise me that you'll do that. She said, all right. So after he died, right before they closed the casket, she went and put a box in the casket, and she said, her friend said to her, you have got to be kidding. Please tell me that you did not put your money in the casket with him. And she said, well, I can't lie. I promised him I would do it. She said, you mean to tell me you put that money in? And she said, well, I sure did. But instead of cash, I wrote him a check. I don't know why I thought that was so funny, okay? Every time I thought about it, I thought it was funny. Oh my gosh. Some of you just come for things like that. You don't even care about the Bible stuff. It's like, what corny jokes are we going to talk about today? All right, but here's the deal. God is not against you having money. Please understand that. There was a lot of very wealthy people in the Bible. But here's what his point is, and this is what I say. Ministries like ours, ministries like your church, ministries like Campus Crusade or Young Life, like they are built on people donating money. So God has no problem with you having money. It's basically what is your attitude about the money. That's kind of where he's going. Look at Deuteronomy 8:17. And beware lest you say in your mind and heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. But you shall earnestly remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as in this day. So, here's the thing. If you have money, here's a little clue for you. You cannot take credit for any of it. God gave you the ability to make that money. He gave you the brain power to make it. He gave you all the things that he needs. He gave you the opportunity. It was so cute. Dusty is our 17-year-old. He has a job now. It's kind of cute. And so we were talking to him because he thinks that all of his money should go to his truck. Okay, if you saw his truck, you'd laugh. Like he has every light you can imagine on this truck. But it's fun because he's 17. So we finally sat down with him and said, look, you need to save some, tithe some. And he was like, I just don't understand that tithing thing. He goes, I'm the one working. God's not working. I'm spending my, 20 hours a week working. And I laugh because I'm like, I bet every person in here thinks the same thing, but you're not going to say it out loud. It takes a 17-year-old boy to actually voice that, even though every one of us have thought that thought before. And I know he was half joking, but here's the deal. If you look at all the people in the Bible, Abraham, Solomon, David, these are people that God blessed with incredible wealth. So Jesus isn't condemning wealth at all or having money, but he is condemning a greedy, materialistic, it's all about me, I want more so I can spend it on me. Look what Paul says in Timothy. 1 Timothy 6, as for the rich in this world, charge them not to be proud and arrogant and contemptuous of others, nor to set their hopes on uncertain riches, but on God, who richly and ceaselessly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Charge them to do good, to be rich in good works, to be liberal and generous of heart, ready to share with others. So that's the whole point to what Jesus was saying in the video here, is where is your heart? What is your motives? What matters most to you is pretty much what he was saying. There was a pastor that was invited to dinner at a very, very wealthy man in Texas, his home. And when they got done eating, they went to the top of the balcony, and the man was talking to the wealthy man was talking to the pastor, and he was looking out, and he said, look over there. He said, 25 years ago, I had nothing. He said, but look over there to all the oil fields. And he said, those are all mine. And look at the forest, that's all mine. And the wheat fields, that's all mine. And he was so proud of himself, and he thought that the pastor would be so encouraging, like, that's so awesome. But the pastor stopped him and put his hand and said, I see that you have a lot out there, but what do you have up here? And the man dropped his head and said, I have never, ever thought about it. Because somehow we get money and think it's all of ours instead of saying, God, what can I do with this money to help you? Now, I hate the word tithing. I'm pretty sure you hate the word tithing too. And so I want to change that today. And I'm basing this off of something that Andy Stanley said in something I was watching the other day. He was talking about how he knows that what means the most to him is when people love his wife and his children. And I thought about this the other day. Cheyenne walked in here, and there was a lady here, and Cheyenne's like, oh my gosh, your purse is so cute. And you know what this lady did? She went and bought my daughter a purse. And it was the sweetest thing. And I can't tell you as a parent, like, what that did to me, that somebody loves my children and that they're kind to them. And when people are nice to my husband, like, that means so much to me. So let's change the whole thought process on tithing and say, I want to love on God's kids. That's what it is. When we give money to wherever, we're just saying, God, I love your kids, and I want to do what I can to help them out. Because I think that's what makes God happy, when we give and help his children out. Now, I want to tell you how that works a little bit. I had this whole lesson put together. Saturday morning, something happened, and so I changed it all around because I want you to see it kind of went into this whole thought process of loving God's kids. For this ministry here, you guys know that we teach Bible. It literally goes out into the world. I don't know. That's just God. We didn't plan on that. It's just something that happened. So Saturday morning, I got an email from a woman in India who watches us. And so after reading her email, I shut down what I was doing in my lesson. I said, you know what, I'm going to read parts of this email. Her English is a little different, so words that she says won't make a lot of sense to us, but I think you'll get the gist of it. Because here's my point. There are people all over the world just like her, and probably in lots of worse conditions than her. And for us, I want us to be able to look around us and say, you know what can I do to help people? And maybe for you it's just in your circle, but for here it's out there. And I want you to see how important your donations are to this ministry. And I want to thank you for that, because some of you, I'm telling you, you put money in the donation box and you send us money, and I just want you to see what is going on out there with what you're loving on God's kids. Please don't ever look at it like tithing anymore. I want us to change this. So let's read this real quick. She says her name is Saujanya from, I can't even say that, Hyderabad, India. Okay. My father was born in a Christian family, my mother in a Hindu family, a lot of Hindus in India. As children, we were used to going to Sunday school. I heard Bible verses. I'm not certain what that means. She heard Bible verses. Participated actively in church activities. Father used to write songs. Used to have prayer every night before going to bed. My mother accepted Jesus. Our neighbors used to say good things about our family because we were happy and content. My father's earnings were very less and barely managed to pay our school fees. And one day our lives have changed forever. On 29th December 1999, my mother eloped with a guy who belongs to our church, which I'm assuming she had an affair, and left the kids, whom we used to call brother. She said, I was 11 years old when this happened. My father became a drunkard, left his job. We do not had anything to eat, no money, no relatives to go to their home. Owners asked us to vacate our house. For the next 2 years, my elder sister took tuitions, and our neighbors provided us food sometimes, and we never prayed to God from then on. I just want to stop there and say, I think a lot of people are at that place. They're just done. Like, God never came through for them. And I'm just so thankful for her that she didn't stop there. She said it was very difficult for us to face the situation thrown at us. We had no clue on what to do, and no one guided us nor came to our rescue. We were on our own. My elder sister eloped with a non-Christian guy, discontinued her studies. Someone told our situation to our maternal grandparents and uncle who are Hindus. We went to live with them. One day my sister showed me a prayer pamphlet she had found. We decided to read it before going to bed, and doing it gave us peace from all the hard work we did in the daytime. I got a free engineering seat with a scholarship in another city. They had sent me there with much reluctance. During engineering, I started going to church. In my second year, I accepted Jesus as my Savior. I wanted to serve God and do things for Him. I came to know about a mission who works to preach the gospel to young people. I joined it, but soon lost my spiritual belief because of all the rules and regulations. I stopped going to church regularly. Even if I went, I never listened to the Word of God. And then it happened. One guy proposed to me. I accepted, and he is a Hindu. When I told him about my family, he gladly accepted me, but told me it would take time to convince his family. I was very happy. It was like living a dream. But somewhere I knew I was doing wrong. I ignored it and continued to live the life as I like and stopped going to church. One day her sister came, said, let's go to church. She did. She said that day God opened my eyes. I realized how I ignored Him all these days and again decided to give my life to Him. I broke up with my boyfriend, realized that God will never want us to marry a non-believer. My grandmother got me an alliance who is a Hindu. I'm not certain what that means. Rejected it, and they stopped talking to me and my sister. I asked God to get me married. When it didn't happen, I went into depression, stopped talking to people, got addicted to physical desires. I used to imagine those things all the day. I resigned the job I could do because I couldn't do it with a disturbed mind. I regret I've wasted 27 years of my life doing nothing to God but made Him sad because of my wrongdoings. But now I have only one goal, to know the purpose of God in my life and to lead my life the way He wants me to live. I decided to wait on God, and I know for sure that He will speak to me. I happened to come across your Bible study. I started listening to Luke Gospel, and I am being strengthened in spirit. Every chapter is lesson for me. It's like God is teaching me on how to change my life. So thank you. So that is thank you. And I cannot tell you that because these are people all over the world. They're God's kids everywhere. And whether it's this Bible study or you're giving to other ministries, it doesn't matter. I just want us to change our focus because so many people need Jesus, and they live in lands where there's Hinduism and Islam, and there's so many, and our purpose here is to get out there and share the truth with people so that they can go to heaven and have a relationship with Jesus. So I want to say thank you to you for being here and for giving what you do. Now, I want to talk about this whole idea of being rich towards God real quick, because a lot of people say, well, what does that mean? What can I do? Because a lot of you give money to church. That's great. I think that's a really, really good thing. But here's my thought. You need to find something that you're really passionate about. I just talked to a pastor the other day. His son is a sophomore in high school, and he is getting ready to go on to Africa. And he wants to take over his dad's mission in Africa and he's a sophomore in high school. You're like, really? So you have these kids, or you have what is your passion? For me, of course, it's just Bible. And so I'm desperate to get Bible out to as many. So I realize that we tend to support a lot of ministries like the Wilders, who came in with the Mormonism series, because I want Mormons to get saved. So we tend to give money to missions that will get the gospel out there and teach people. So that's kind of our passion. I don't want to embarrass this lady. I won't tell you her name. If you know her, you know her. She comes to our Bible study. She is literally the nicest person I've ever met. She has a heart for homeless people. She will take her personal money, and she goes on the weekends and goes yard sailing, and she buys backpacks and purses because she knows how difficult it is to be homeless. So she goes and does that. That's her passion. We have a friend, Ginger, who started a diaper ministry because she has so much. She realizes that most people can't afford diapers if you're a single mom and you have no money. And her goal is 1 million diapers to give away this year. We have... You may be here and you're like, you know what, I was abused sexually as a child, so then you need to go get involved with maybe the sex trafficking, whatever. Maybe you're an unwed mom and you have a heart for that. Go help those people. Like, everyone has passions in their life for something. If you're a business person, you just want people to get on their feet and pull their bootstraps up. Well, there's lots of places you can go for that. We support a mission called Gospel for Asia. And they actually had their Christmas catalog where you can go in and buy 2 chickens for $11 or a goat for $90. Okay, and they'll get these to these kids and these people so they can start their own business. Like, how awesome is that? Maybe for you it's just getting blankets for the homeless, or maybe you like the medical field or the dental field. Here's my favorite, and every time I throw this out, I'm waiting for someone to start this, but someone needs to do this. I can't see. Drives me nuts without my glasses. And so I think, like, okay, someone needs to start a glasses ministry so we can gather up glasses and then ship them overseas to people so they can see. It stresses me out. I don't know why. But here's the deal. Galatians 2. Paul went out and preached the gospel, and so did Peter. Galatians 2 said this, but on the contrary, they saw that I had been entrusted with the gospel to the Gentiles, just as Peter had been entrusted to the Jews. But they asked only one thing, that we remember the poor, the very thing which I was eager to do. And see, that's what I want us to be. I want us to be a ministry that says, you know what? I love teaching the Word of God, but we also have to care about other people. And so when you give your money to this ministry, I want you to know that that's what we're doing. We take 10% right off the top. I know I've told you this before. We give to 4 ministries. One is Feed My Starving Children. I want to tell you that since January 1st, we were able to give them $6,081 and feed 27,644 meals, which means our little ministry here feeds 76 children every day for a year. Is that the coolest thing? Like, really? But see, that's what's so fun about this. Wells in Africa, this last year, we're getting ready to build our 2.5 well. I don't even know if that's how you even say that. Each well services 10,000 people who are like in the bush. They have to walk miles and miles to get filthy, dirty water. And we will be able to support 25,000 people getting fresh water for the next 50 years. Like, those are just things to be so excited about. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you guys for being here and for doing that, because you tend to care about this ministry, which then in fact gives us the ability to care for other ministries too. I love this. A woman decides to have her portrait painted. So she told the artist, I want you to paint me with diamond rings and diamond necklace and emerald bracelets and a ruby brooch. And he says, but you're not wearing any of those things. And she said, I know, but it's just in case I die before my husband. I know he's going to get remarried, and I want his new wife to go crazy looking for my jewelry. I love that. But here's the deal with this guy that we just talked about here when Jesus was talking. He was saying, you know what? We don't know how many days we have. We just don't. So that's the problem with wealth, is once you die, like, you don't know where it's going to go. So I say, while you're living, do something fun with it, so you give it away. Matthew 6:26 says, and what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? There is no purchasing power after death. That's the problem. There was a man, it's a pretend story, of course. He picks up a newspaper and he realizes that the date on it is 6 months in advance. And suddenly he realizes that he could make a fortune on this newspaper. He can go and see what stocks are down, on the rise. He can play that. He can go sports. He can see the underdog team, bet on them. He can do that whole thing and make a lot of money. And then he turns to the next page, and of course, it's the obituaries. And there his picture was. Because I think something happens when we start realizing that someday we're going to die. So, and that sounds really morbid, and I know that sounds really stupid, but I think what Jesus is saying is this man died, and he was never rich towards God. He was just rich towards himself, like me, what about me? So find your passion, find something that you love, and get involved with them, because there's nothing, honestly, more fun than giving money and seeing what God can do with it. Super fun. All right, let's go to the next part, worry. Watch this next video, and then we will finish out on worry today. Okay, we are back here to finish out the lesson today. We want to show you what is called the Golden Gate. If you get out your map of the city, you'll see Mount of Olives is on the right. So I am actually standing here looking at the Mount of Olives. So behind me, if you're looking at the Mount of Olives straight on, up here we have the Golden Gates. Now I want to tell you a little bit about that. This gate was built in the 6th and 7th century AD over the ruins of the Second Temple, because of course the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. The interesting part about this particular gate is that it has been sealed since the 16th century. It is only one of the 8 gates in Jerusalem that is sealed, and the reason is because the Arabs believe that since the Jews expect that the Messiah is going to come through this gate, they wanted to try to prevent the possibility of his return, so they walled it up, which is kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure Jesus is way bigger than that. So the East Gate was walled up by Muslim conquerors with great stones in 1530 AD, and a cemetery was planted in the front of it, thinking that the Jewish Messiah would not set foot in a cemetery, and therefore he would not be able to come, and he's not coming back. That's how they believe. So I want to read to you a few of our verses today. We are now in verse 22, and let's just start there. And he said to his disciples, "For this reason, I say to you, do not worry about your life as to what you will eat, nor for your body as to what you will put on. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap. They have no storeroom nor barn, and yet God feeds them. How much more valuable you are than the birds? And which of you by worrying can add a single hour to his lifespan? If then you cannot do even a very little thing, why do you worry about other matters? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. But I tell you, not even Solomon in all his glory clothed himself like one of these. But if God so clothed the grass in the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more will he clothe you, you men of little faith? And do not seek what you will eat and what you will drink, and do not keep worrying. For all these things the nations of the world eagerly seek, but your Father knows that you need these things. But seek his kingdom, and these things will be added to you. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has chosen gladly to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to charity. Make yourself money belts which do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven where no thief comes near nor moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So we'll go back to Phoenix and finish our lesson from there. I actually had a good hair day that day. Okay. Wait till next week. Okay, next week is a disaster. It was one of the hottest days next week. We're going to be talking about Tel Megiddo, where you look out over where the final battle of Armageddon is going to be. It's kind of cool, but that day was the hottest. I sweated. Like when I sweat, like my hair gets frizzy. It was so embarrassing. I almost just like shut the whole video off and said we're not doing this anymore. But you guys will just have to just think of that. Okay, I did have a couple good hair days, but okay. So let's talk about worry. Here's the deal. What I noticed from these two videos is that you see rocks that are over 2,000 years old sitting there. You see tombs that are 2,000 years old, and you're sitting there thinking, you know what? I bet those people worried just like we worry. I bet they really actually worried about things like, oh my gosh, is this rock going to fit the right way in the temple? And am I going to make enough money to feed my kids? And how am I going to get them to school? Like the same worries that you and I have, they had back then too. But guess what? In 2,000 years, whatever. And I'm hoping today that we could walk out of here with a whatever kind of attitude, because there's no reason why we should ever have to worry. I read this. Do you know why elephants live longer than people? Because they never worry about having to lose weight. Okay. I read that. I'm like, that is probably so true. But here's the problem with worry. Worry is something that is about the future. Everything about worry is not about 5 minutes from now. Most of our worry is concerned with what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen to me in a week or a month or a year, or what's going to happen to my kid, and it just goes on and on and on, and worry is anxiety over the future. Now, I learned this many, many years ago, and this is way before I ever even knew what it was like to, am I okay? Am I okay? Okay. When my daughter laughs, I always think like, is my zipper down? My joke was like, no, I was like, because then one time my necklace was like way over here, and so they were trying to get my attention, so I'm always worried if they laugh, because I'm always like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. I'm gonna banish my daughter to the back there. Okay, many years ago, before I ever even really did Bible and really understood this whole concept of worry, I didn't realize how much it affects your body. Now, we started a business. We ended up wanting to hire a man that was supposed to bring all of his accounts with him. And I don't know what it was, but I was just panic-stricken over this. I didn't know, because I knew if we had to pay a lot of money to get him here. I knew if he didn't bring his accounts, we weren't going to have any money. And Rob would come home at night, and he would talk to me, and I would sit there in my chair, and my heart would like pound as if it was just about ready to jump out of my chest. And I would think, okay, what's wrong with me? And so this went on for about 2 weeks. Finally, one night, Rob fell asleep. I feel like all you have to do is go to WebMD, and you've got all the symptoms right off the bat. You know that. Okay, so I went on WebMD. How do you know you're having a heart attack? The elephant is sitting on your chest. Of course, that's how I felt that night. So the next morning, I woke up and I said, Rob, I have to go to the doctor. So he took me to the Arizona Heart Hospital. Went in there, took all the tests and everything, and the doctor came and sat down with me, and he said, everything is fine. What are you worried about? And I burst into tears. Money and blah. You know, I was so shocked at how much worry affected my physical body. So we have to stop. I learned then, I can't live like that. I'm not going to do that anymore. So we have to learn how to stop worrying. So here's what worry looks like. Every time I open this umbrella, it pops the other way. So we're going to try to do this without... Okay, so here's worry. Hang on. All right. We're just going to go ahead and teach the lesson today. Oh, why do I have the umbrella? Well, I heard it's going to rain next week. Yeah. Well, why are you wearing... why am I having it up now? Well, I'm kind of a little concerned. Like, if it rains, there's a leak. And if there's a leak, then it's going to go to my hair. Then my hair will go frizzy, I guess. But I feel more comfortable. And I started thinking about that, and that's what worry is, right there. It's like taking things that are in the future that have never happened and may never happen. The roof's not going to leak, for crying out loud. But we start building these big monsters up in our mind, and we cannot seem to get rid of them. Here's some. Dusty, he's going to college next year. If you can imagine, our baby, our 7th child, is going off to college. We'll have 2 in college. I could literally lay in bed awake at night thinking, how in the world are we going to afford 2 kids in college? Like, that could be just very stressful. What about mold? I told you about our mold issue. We had a friend of ours that had mold in their house. They had to bulldoze the entire house down. That's how bad it was. So I could lay in bed at night thinking, what if there's mold? And I just could go down that whole road. What if I can't afford food? And I started laughing. I thought, that might not be a bad idea. Maybe I would stop eating. That's a good idea. Cheyenne, she's so cute. She's like, I can't wait to get married, Mom. And I'm thinking, no. Because what happens with girls? We have to pay for the wedding, okay? So just hold off on that for a little while. But yours may be like, what if I don't have insurance? And what if I never get married? And what if something's wrong with my baby? And what if my teenager gets on drugs? And what if? And I think Jesus knew when he said that worry was a huge problem back then, because food and clothes, you have closets full of clothes and pantries full of food. They didn't have that back then. And Jesus knew that would be a worry to them, and Jesus knew 2,000 years we would be worried about silly things like that too. Look at what he says in verse 22. And he said to his disciples, for this reason I say to you, do not worry about your life as to what you will eat, future, nor for your body or what you will put on, future. And which of you by worrying can add a single hour to his lifespan when you cannot do even the very thing? Why do you worry about other matters? So here's the question. Does your worrying help what you're worrying about? Does it ever do anything? Like, I'm worried, but does it change the situation at all? I laugh. My sister, right, it must have been 3 or 4 years ago. I know I've told you this before. Right during the last election. So I went to get my hair done. She happened to be there. That never happens. I didn't know she was going to be there. I sit down to talk to her, and she said, do you have gray hair? And I said, I don't think so. I color it, so I don't really know how I would know that. She said, oh, no, I color mine too, but it's all gray. And I said, oh, that's so sad. Well, then a few minutes later, she starts telling me how stressed she is over the election. She's just like, I'm so worried. I'm just like, who's going to be president? What's going to happen to the world? And she's just going on and on. And I laughed because I'm like, that's why you have gray hair, okay? I don't have gray hair because I've learned not to worry, okay? But that's the problem is that we tend to worry about things we have no control. Here we are, 3 years later. The president's going to be president whether you worry about it or not. Like, there's nothing you can do. Go vote. Go do what you can do. But the bottom line is, why are we worried about stuff we can't change at all? It doesn't add any good part to your life. So here's a couple things on how to stop worrying. First, recognize this. Most things are out of your control anyway. Like, I know that's hard to imagine because some people in here are very controlling and you're like, I want to control my kids and I want to control this. You can't. Newsflash, you just can't. Here's the deal. You can work out and you can eat healthy. There is no guarantee, and I live by this, there is no guarantee that that's going to give you a longer life. That's why I don't work out. And the fact that I don't want to. You can work hard at your job, but you know what? If your company decides to go under, you're going to lose your job. Like, why worry about things that you have no control over? We can tell our kids about Jesus and take them to church. There's no guarantee that they're actually going to follow Jesus. That's hard to understand, and that's hard to grasp in your mind. But money in the stock market, we did that. 9/11 terrorist attack. Guess what happened? Our whole portfolio blew up to nothing. Okay, I could have worried about that for you. It happens. And when things happen, oh well. Okay, we'll get by it. Worry will never, ever change the outcome. So here's the deal. I can pray about stuff. I can give my concerns over to God. And here's what I learned about worry. I'm going to pray about stuff, and I'm going to say, God, I can't do anything about this, but I know that you're going to get me through. This happened this morning. I woke up this morning, and I was driving in here. I got in my car. Now, mind you, Rob leaves early. Dusty's already gone. And I get in my car, and I turn it on, and there is my flat tire light is on. Now, I know I can probably make it to a gas station, maybe. So I head out, and I'm thinking, do I worry about this? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to pray. God, I need you to get me to where I need to go. That's the best I can do. And then, so then you take it to the end, like we talked about last week. Okay, so what happens if I get a flat tire? I'll call Uber. Like, I don't know. I'll call someone. They'll get me. So if I'm late, well, then you're not going to have candy on your table. Okay, like, what is it going to be the end of the world? Like, it may for some people, but really, if you really take worry and do what we did last week with this whole run it all the way to the end, whatever, like, it's just not that big of a deal. So why are we causing ourselves so much stress? Look at verse 24. Consider the ravens. They don't sow or reap. They have no storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. How much more valuable are you than the birds? Like, really think about that. God's saying, they're birds, and they're not even nice birds. They're kind of unclean, and they're gross. But God says, I know exactly where they are. And see, I think the bigger view we get on God and how much he loves us, he's going to take care of us. Look at this by Elizabeth Cheney. She wrote a poem. Said the robin to the sparrow, I should really like to know why these anxious human beings rush about and worry so. Said the sparrow to the robin, friend, I think that it must be that they have no heavenly Father such as cares for you and me. There you go. I think we forgot, like, when something happens to me during the day, I go directly up. God, what can we do about this? What can we, like, I don't tend to internalize it anymore. I'm not going to do that because I realize now what it does to my health. Second part, do your part. Let God do his. Here's the deal. God provided worms in the ground for the birds. God provides stuff for them to make their nests. But guess what? They have to go do something. So do what you can and then let God do the rest. We do this with our business. Okay, I can sit around and worry about our business, but I will tell you this. My husband gets up, our alarm goes off between 4 and 4:30 every morning. He gets up, he reads his Bible, he gets to work by probably 6 to 6:15 in the morning with coffee for most of the days for everybody, and then they work. And they work really hard. And there's days we go, what's going to happen with our business? And the answer is, I don't know, but I'm not going to worry about it. Because I know we're doing our part. God is going to do the rest. Proverbs 21:31, the horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord. See, you and I have to figure out, what am I worried about? What can I do about it? It's like if you got the job of cutting down an entire forest, let's say an acre of forest, and they said, start here. And you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all of these trees. I'm never, ever going to get to them. I'm never going to be able to cut them all down. You worry, 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 worry. Worry never cuts down a tree. Okay, so you take one step at a time, and you go cut down one tree. And then in 6 months from now, the forest is down. You take one little step at a time, and you quit worrying about this overall picture. I laughed yesterday. Cheyenne texted me, and she said, I'm really worried about my grades. And I said, she goes, I'm afraid you and Dad are going to get mad if I get a bad grade. And I said, honey, I don't get mad about grades. If you got pregnant and brought home a little baby that I'd have to raise, I'm going to be mad at you, okay? But it's just kind of like, why are we worrying about stuff that is just not that important to worry about? Here's my thinking. If you're a student and your teacher gives you a 250-page book to read, don't worry. Do something. Start reading, okay? Like, it's just not that difficult. If you are terrified that someone's going to come in and break into your house and kill you, I have an idea. 3 things. Buy a dog, buy a gun, and put an alarm system in. Like, I think we think like we're Christians and we just have to trust God. Well, God gives us a brain. Do you know when they went to rebuild the wall, I think it was in Nehemiah, they're on the wall and they have one hand on a sword and one hand working. Like, don't think just because you are allowed to go protect yourself, just an FYI on that, okay? If you are here and you're thinking, what if my husband dies and I don't know how to I can't get a job? Go back to school. Get a degree. Like, do something that you can do to help that worry, because sometimes that's just all our own in our own mind. Do today what you can prepare for tomorrow. Now, how does this play out in our life? Most of us worry about our kids and our grandchildren. That's just what we do. And I want to tell you right now that you can stop worrying about them, because you will never change them. You can't. Nothing will ever change your children or your grandchildren. You can love them, pray for them, take them to church, tell them about Jesus, beg them to come to Jesus, pray the sinner's prayer with them 250 times, and they still may not get it. Okay, so stop worrying about it. You can't change that, but God can. And so whenever you start worrying about them, you stop and you say, nope, I'm not going that way and I'm not going inward, I'm going upward. God, I'm concerned about them today. Would you please draw them to yourself, whatever it takes? See, that's what takes the worry from us, is we take the worry and say, God, here, you to worry about it. I'm not doing that anymore. And I think that's what Jesus is trying to say, like, stop worrying about things you have no control over. It's like Tony Campala, he's an evangelist, loves Jesus. All he's ever wanted to do, it's his job. He goes out and tells people about Jesus. His son came home one Thanksgiving a few years ago and said, I'm done. I don't believe in this Jesus anymore. I don't believe in any of it. And do you know how devastating that is for a parent? We have kids that have gone through college and gone off the rails, and there's nothing more heartbreaking. But I have come to the conclusion with my children, there is not a thing I can do about it. And when I finally come to that conclusion, I never worry about it. I never worry about my kids. The ones that I'm concerned about, I go right to God. God, they're acting stupid today. Would you do something with them? Like, I just don't worry any longer like I used to. Katy Perry, most of you know Katy Perry, she's the current highest profile preacher's kid that walked away from her faith. And her father is just devastated. And he went to one of her concerts and he said, I wept through the entire thing. Because for one thing, he said, you've got 20,000 kids just worshiping an idol of his daughter. And he was just so saddened by this. But she walked in one day and said, I don't want to be a Christian. I don't believe in heaven or hell or an old man sitting on a throne. Now, be a pastor and have your child do that to you. I can't even imagine how devastating that would be. But here's the deal. You don't have any control over your children. And when you can grasp that, it will change your life. It really will. Do what you can, but you're not responsible for what your children or grandchildren do. There's a lot of freedom in that. Your marriage. Some of you are here. This is the second thing. Some of you are worried about your marriage. You think maybe your husband's having an affair. You don't really know what's going on with him. Why is he so distant? What's the problem? He's just acting clueless. Here's a clueless man. A man was reading his paper one morning, and his wife walks by and says, do you know what today is? And he didn't, but he lied and said, of course I know what today is. And she walked off. And he got in the car and said, I have no idea what today is. Maybe it's her birthday. And he knew that she liked birthdays and presents and things like that. So he said, so he gets to work and he sends her some flowers. And then halfway through the day, he goes, maybe it's not her birthday, maybe it's her anniversary, and I'm kind of confused. So he went and bought her a diamond bracelet and had it sent to her. And then on the way home, he got a box of chocolates and pulled up in the driveway, and his wife comes running out, throws her arms around him and says, honey, this has been the best Groundhog Day of my entire life. Okay, so that may be your husband, totally clueless, okay? So here's my thinking about what you can do. If you think you need marriage counseling, call Jan, okay? If you think you need to communicate, talk to him. It may be as simple as go have more sex with him, okay? Like, I hate to say that, but that could possibly be the problem too. So whatever it is, go do your part, what you can do. And then do this. God, if there's something going on, would you reveal it to me? Because I will tell you, God is really good at revealing things to people. That's his job. So know that going into this. Your finances. Okay, I've got to hurry and get out of here. Your finances. Some people worry desperately, is my money secure? Am I going to be secure? Can I tell you that you need to stop? You really honestly need to stop and give that over to God. Frank Sinatra, the great singer Frank Sinatra, he sung until, I don't know how old he was, 1 billion, I think, okay? His daughter, Tina, went to one of his later on concerts. And Frank Sinatra couldn't remember the words. He had to have oxygen afterwards because he was just, and she finally sat down and said, Dad, you don't have to continue singing. And do you know what he said? I have to. I have to earn more money. I have to make sure everyone is taken care of. I can't stop. Worry, 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 worry. And you know what happened after he died? His whole financial estate. I think they're probably still fighting over it today. Like, that's how bad it was. And so it's like, for what? What are you going to worry about your money for? Do what you can. Work until you can stop working. If you get Social Security or whatever, then live on that. Like, God is going to take care of you. He just is. There's no sense in worrying about stuff like that. So, 3, this is the illustration that I'm hoping with our door that will change your life. Here's the deal. See this door? Look what Jesus says in Matthew 6:34. He says, so do not worry or be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have worries and anxiety of its own. Sufficient for each day is its own trouble. Here's what you and I are allowed to do. We are allowed to worry about today, the 24 hours that we're in. That's it. Beyond this door right here is your future, tomorrow. You cannot worry about anything that is beyond this door. So if you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm so worried about that thing that I have to do on Friday. Remember, do what you can today, but you can't worry about what's on behind. Because here's the deal. I don't know what's on the other side of this door. I may not live till tomorrow. Why am I going to worry about stuff? Who knows? So Jesus says, see this little box right here? Here's your 24-hour period right here. That's all you can worry about. You can't think of anything. You can't. And when you start, this happened to me last week, because we have a lot of stuff going on with our business right now. And so I woke up and I started thinking about, what are we going to do? And what's the best route? And I can start worrying. And I stopped myself. And I said, wait, this is the coolest thing I've ever learned. That's tomorrow. I can't worry about it. I'm in today. Rob said to me, it was so funny. He goes, I was telling him about that because we were talking about something with the business. And I said, but here's the deal, Rob. You're not allowed to worry past 24 hours. And he said, am I allowed to set my alarm for 12:01? And then I can get up and start worrying. And I said, you can do that, but then you can only worry about that 24 hours. But think about how that would change our life. Look at Psalm 68:19. Blessed be the Lord who bears our burden day by day. He doesn't say month by month or year by year, day by day. Take it a day at a time. Jesus says, deal with what is happening with today. Worry is always about the future, and that door is where I want us to always think about. I want us to go through life like this little girl. She came out of school. She was 7 years old. There was a big storm going on. It was lightning and thundering. She walked 3 blocks to get home. Her mom realizes that she's going to be walking home in the storm, and so her mom goes to meet her. And as her daughter is walking, she's looking up as the lightning, and she's smiling. And her mom gets to her and said, what are you doing? She said, Mom, the coolest thing is that God is taking pictures of me. okay? And I thought, here's a little girl in the midst of a storm that she has no idea, but she just knows God loves her and is taking pictures of her. And I thought, okay, what if we could actually go through life like that? Because I will tell you, worry sucks the joy out of your life, and it sucks the life out of your life. So here's our 3 things. Remember, you cannot control it. Give whatever it is that you can't control up to God. 2, deliverances of God, so you've got to give, you have to do your part, but he does the rest. So whatever you need to do, make sure you get that done. 3, 24 hours is all that we're allowed. This morning when I had my little flat tire thing, this is what I prayed. God, I need you to, I had 25, it was like, all my other tires were at like 31 pound, whatever that is. Mine was at 25 on this one tire. I started out at 25. I was laughing because I said, God, I need you to make sure that my tire pressure, I make it to Bible study, because that's, And I saw it rise. It went to 26, and then it went to 27. And I actually imagined, this is where my brain goes, like an angel sucking on my, blowing into my wheel, okay? And I was imagining the angel going around and around and around, and trying to get me to slow down, so you don't want to be me, apparently. Philippians 4:6. Here's where we go. Be anxious for nothing. And you may be here saying, but Lisa, you don't know my problem. And I'm going to tell you, that says nothing. There's no exceptions here. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Whatever you're worried about today, you stop, you pray about it, you say, God, it's in your hands, and whatever happens that you're going to bring into my life, we're going to deal with together. Verse 7, and the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Can I tell you, if you are here, you're watching us, and you've never, ever made a decision for Jesus, you will never have this kind of peace. You will live your life fearful and worried and confused because you don't know that Jesus loves you and that he cares about you and he has a purpose and plan for your life. So if you don't know Jesus, it's simple. Jesus, come into my life. Pick up a Bible, start reading it. It's pretty not that difficult. And I want you to remember those 2,000-year-old rocks, because I look back and say, did it really matter what they were worried about? 2,000 years later, did it really honestly matter? Let's take our worry and put it big perspective. Because think about what you were worried about a year ago. Can you even remember? It was so bad you were worried about it. But now you can't even remember. I don't know what I was worried about. I'm sure it was something. So this is where I want to end. Relax. I want you to relax and enjoy life. And stop taking life so serious. When I saw those rocks today, I thought, they're gone. They're here today and gone tomorrow. So why are we spending so much time destroying our bodies worrying? Stop. We can't do anything about it. And here's what happens. If whatever you're worried about happens, it's just what we said last week. God will get you through it. God, thank you for your word. Thank you for everything that you've given to us so that we don't have to worry. I pray that today worry will be out of our lives. I pray for that in every single person's life, that God, we will take one day at a time and put it upwards to you and stop worrying about the future. God, help us to relax, enjoy life. You've given us a life to enjoy, not to spend it frustrated and worried and fearful, and I'm so grateful for that. God, help us to get a you perspective. Bless each one of these women. In your name, amen. I'm going to keep reiterating this. The storms in your life are not a surprise to God. That whatever you're going through right now, God is doing something upstream that you have no idea. You can't see what he's doing. The reason why this is so important is because eternity is, and the Bible does not say that. So what I'm saying is we have to get back to being Bible. This is my one point that I want to make. Remind me, God, that it's all about you.